emailed with you before, maybe spoken on the phone or met you in person, hopefully, but I serve as one of the graduate enrollment counselors here at Lenoir-Rhyne University, along with my colleague Jan Wolf, who is one of our enrollment counselors for our Asheville Center. And then we are also joined today by Dr. Jordan, who is one of our Asheville counseling faculty, and is here to give you all the ins and outs of our counseling program, so that you all feel confident moving forward if you plan to apply or if you're just inquiring about the program in general. This session is really an opportunity for us to answer any questions that you have regarding the program, the field, really anything. So we're here to support you. If you're not interested in Lenoir-Rhyne University's clinical mental health or school counseling program, you may be in the wrong session. But if so, we're certainly excited to have you join us today. How this session will run is, in the beginning, we'll have Dr. Jordan speak about the program itself, and then answer any questions y'all have. So that could include program requirements, internship experience, work as a clinical or school counselor, just anything involving the program that you might want to talk with a faculty member about. She is here to do that with you. And then towards the tail end of the session, we will go over, Jane and I.
Nichole, you got muted somehow.
I don't know what you heard last, but
it was me. I was clicking too fast and clicked on the wrong thing. Sorry.
That's okay.
So,
I'll backtrack. I guess, did you get the first part of the session will be with Dr. Jordan?
Yep. You were just about to say what you and Jan would do.
Gotcha. So the second part of the session, Jan and I will cover admission requirements, the application process, enrollment, and then anything concerning graduate student financial aid. That will be at the end of the session. So for those of you that Jan and I have met with before regarding that information, you are encouraged to stay, but if you've already heard that from us, no worries, we won't be hurt if you decide that you need to leave. We get that this is a lunch hour for a lot of people, so we are also recording this session, so if you do have to cut out a little early, please know that we are happy to send you the recording of the session as well. So just let us know, send us an email if you would like for us to send that to you. Okay. And it looks like Dr. Robinson from our Columbia campus, I saw that you popped in. Thank you for joining us as well. Dr. Robinson is our program coordinator for the counseling program in Columbia, South Carolina. So for those of you that are interested in that campus location, she is a great resource for you and can answer any questions that you have about that as well. So welcome, Dr. Robinson. And then I guess we will go ahead and get started. Also, one thing I'll just mention too, if you'll just keep yourself muted as we're kind of going through the information, just to kind of keep out any background noise. But feel free to unmute yourself if you do have a question. Also, you're welcome to ask questions in the chat box. Jan is usually really great about answering those pretty quickly for you as well. So this is an open session, so I know it can feel intimidating to speak out in a big group over Zoom, but we certainly want to make the most of your time with us, so we encourage you to do that. So, all righty. Well, Dr. J, I will turn it over to you if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your role. Sure. Same with Dr. Robinson, and then we'll get started with our program information.
That sounds good. I'm Dr. Myra Jordan, and students typically call me Dr. J. And I, as Nichole said, I'm on the Asheville campus primarily, and have been at Lenoir-Rhyne since 2014. So not quite since the start of the Asheville Center, but nearly. And I typically teach the counseling theories class, the diversity class, practicum, and then I often also get to teach our human development or lifespan development course, and sometimes career counseling and a sexuality elective. I really love talking about our program and answering questions that prospective students have. So I tend to just kind of go on a little spiel here when I get going. And I also know that I bring the Asheville lens, and I'm also happy to answer questions about some of the differences between our campuses and also some of the similarities across curriculum, because the curriculum is the same across all three campuses. But before I do my spiel, I'll let Dr. Robinson introduce herself.
Good afternoon. Good to see all of you all. So I'm Dr. Janelle Robinson. They just call me Dr. Robinson. I need to get a cool nickname like Dr. J and Dr. K. But I'm the coordinator of the Columbia campus, and I've been at Lenoir-Rhyne since 2019. And so before that, I was at a school in Huntsville, Alabama for several years. And before that, I was at schools in Pennsylvania and West Virginia. So hopped around a bit. And I have taught almost every class in this program. I think the only classes I have not taught, probably like research assessments, things like that. But typically practicum internships, so students in the Columbia campus and other students. So the great thing about, our program is that there are opportunities to have other professors from other campuses. And so I've had the great privilege of being able to teach students from all three campuses, but intro to clinical mental health, counseling theories, advanced theories. Like Dr. J, I do teach diversity every semester as well. Like I said, internship, practicum, crisis. So, I've taught almost every class that we have to offer. So, if you have any, campus specific questions, please feel free. I know typically Jen and Nichole will give you guys our email information and all of that. So please do not hesitate to ask any questions. And even if it's not just campus specific, I'm still able to answer any questions you guys may have about the program.
Thanks, Dr. Robinson. Yeah, we've got our three campuses, but we are one program. And so the faculty, I've lost count. There are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of us total, I would say, across 9 full-time folks across the three campuses. And so your faculty work very closely together, even if you don't have classes with faculty from other campuses. I think it's helpful for y'all to know that we work together. You have a larger faculty support network than what you might see immediately on each of your individual campuses. We collaborate a lot with the curriculum development and making sure that we are being true to our KCREP accreditation so that y'all are getting exactly what you need to be successful. Not only in moving through the program and passing the licensure exam, but also in the sort of nitty gritty and day-to-day of your work as a future counselor. We're all very passionate about counseling and about developing and fostering really solid counselors, both clinical mental health and school counseling. And hopefully that passion rings true. It's definitely a field that continues to grow. Not only, I think we see it in our numbers in the program that we're growing as a program. And I often say I'm waiting for the saturation point to hit, especially in Asheville, of like, when are our students going to stop finding clients? Or it's not happening. Like every counselor I know has a wait list. And so I say all that to say you're needed, that our field, I think, as the stigma around mental health and counseling decreases and our need goes up, it's just sort of a really lovely time to dive into this field if you're not already involved in it in other ways. Let's see. Nichole mentioned a couple of things. I usually go by whatever y'all offer as questions in the chat box. So do fire away if you've got specific questions. We do have our 2 tracks. We've got clinical mental health counseling, which is a significantly larger track. And then on the Asheville and Hickory campuses, we also have a KCREP approved school counseling track, which we don't yet have in Columbia, but they've got the clinical mental health track there as well. And so students who complete the clinical mental health track are eligible for, they meet the educational requirements for licensure as an LPCA in South Carolina or an LCMHCA in North Carolina, which is the same thing. They just use different letters because why keep it easy? Let's see, we're KCREP accredited, which means our curriculum is pretty set based on our accrediting body that is also sort of a gateway to licensure. It ensures that you're getting what you need in order to get licensed. Both tracks are 61 credit hours, which can be done generally anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 years or longer if students really want to take their time or really need to take their time moving through the program. The fastest that students tend to be able to make it through the program is 8 semesters, including summers. So that would be like 2 full years of 3 semesters each, and then a couple additional semesters to make it 2.5 years. And that's going 3 classes every fall and spring and 2 in the summers. Most of our students, I would say, do what we call part-time, but what federal loans call full-time, so that you still qualify for federal loans. And that's 2 classes per semester. And if you go that route, it's a 10 semester program. So more like 3.5 years, just under 3.5. Major differences between the 3 campuses. I would say, I would say that the campus cultures sort of mirror the cultures where we're located to some degree. That Asheville is right in downtown Asheville. There's definitely, I don't know how to describe an Asheville vibe other than artsy and very wellness focused, but also maybe some non-traditional modes of healing that are sort of the history and a holistic approach to healing that are part of the history of our city. With Hickory, because Hickory is the main campus and it has such a wonderful small liberal arts campus feel with the old brick buildings and the beautiful trees and like traditional campus feel. I always get nostalgic for my undergrad years when I visit the Hickory campus. It's just, and all of our major student support services are based primarily on the Hickory campus. So there's a lot of additional, not a lot, but there are additional resources and access for our Hickory students, where Asheville and Columbia students have adapted versions. So for example, Hickory's where our brick and mortar library is. So if you really like to write your papers in a library, some of us nerd out about that. You're not going to get that on the Asheville campus. Columbia has some spaces that feel more traditional academic as well in a really lovely way. But our Asheville students can absolutely travel to Hickory if they want that. And if they don't, we've also got a computer lab and a librarian on staff in Asheville to help you do your research and help you get access to research resources and materials that you would need. Janelle, Dr. Robinson, you were going to say something.
Yeah. And I mean, I couldn't sit it better, Dr. Jordan. So it definitely mirrors the city. So if anyone is familiar with Columbia, we have University of South Carolina here. The campus is just a few minutes north of downtown, which is, by University of South Carolina campus anyway. So our campus is situated on a seminary. So the Lutheran Theological Southern Seminary. I had to say that really slowly. But it's located on that campus. And so it does kind of have that very traditional feel, I think, Dr. J, like kind of how you feel when you go to Hickory. We do have a library. You can go into the library. There are like study rooms and things like that. We do have a nice new building that we have our classes in, and we have some counseling clinics and things like that where students are able to practice depending on the class that you're taking. So for example, right now I have an advanced techniques class that I'm meeting face to face. And so they get to use the clinic to practice their skills with their partners. So, but it's really quaint. It's cute. You know, we have, a cafeteria so you can eat if you're here during the day, things like that. So a lot to take advantage of here.
That's one thing. We don't have a cafeteria in Asheville. We do have
that.
got Asheville and DoorDash. And so, there's that. We also are located in the same building as the Asheville Visitors Center. So it's always fun to just see who's around. It's a very vibrant building. And it's a building where we feel very much at home in that we've got the top 2 floors of the 3-story building that are really LR focused. Pretty much all of the counseling classes are on the 3rd floor. The counseling faculty offices are up there. So it's a very cozy counseling environment for us up there with the best views in Asheville. I'm biased, but they're pretty much the best ever. I often have to take breaks at specific times during class in the evenings so we can all go look at the sunset over the mountains, because y'all, it's a nice place to live. Classes are in the evenings, generally on all 3 campuses, Monday through Thursday. We don't typically have classes on Fridays or the weekends. Most of our classes are offered somewhere between the hours of 4 and 9 p.m. And we offer our classes in a wide range of formats, either fully face-to-face, where they meet 3 hours once a week, every week, or fully face-to-face where they meet 5 hours every other week. So just 8 times over the course of the semester. We have hybrid classes that meet face-to-face every other week. And on the off weeks, they have an online asynchronous module that you do. And then we have our fully online asynchronous classes that are a handful of them that you can take in that format to kind of free up your schedule a little bit, where you're doing those on your own time. There's deadlines and things, but you're not sitting in class weekly. You're doing the work more independently. And we are a predominantly face-to-face. We are a face-to-face program. I need to stop saying predominantly. We are a face-to-face program. COVID switched things up for us, and we've on all 3 campuses, we've really been pushed, especially by our accreditors, that we need to move back to that face-to-face primary as our way of offering our courses. And with that, we still try to be as flexible as possible in offering a range so that it can best fit your schedules as working adults. Some great questions in the chat box. Course load of a typical class. So it depends on the class. Dr. Finfausen, the program coordinator in Asheville, has always described our curriculum as being a 3-legged stool, where some classes really focus on content, like our counseling theories course. You're really learning a lot of the history of counseling theories and what each of them includes and believes, and it's very content heavy. Other classes, like our techniques classes, are very skills based. So you're not getting, there's still a didactic content piece, but it's much more hands-on experiential role play type work. And then the 3rd leg of the stool is a self-reflective component to our curriculum. And classes like the diversity class are really heavy on the self-reflection. So of course, there's also content. There's probably some role plays in diversity, but it's a primarily self-reflective process. And so depending on which of the legs of the stool is primary in the course, that's going to impact the types of assignments that are part of the class. So for theories, which is content heavy, there are tests, there are paper, it's a very writing heavy class. But then for techniques, it's a very skills based. So you're not writing big research papers, but you are submitting recordings of your practice sessions and your own reflection on your sessions and how they went, in order to get more interactive feedback from your faculty on your development of skills. Lots of reflection papers in our program, no matter the class. It is interwoven throughout the program. We aren't a thesis oriented program, though we do have a capstone project at the end of your time with us that you complete in order to graduate, typically during your final semester of internship, which for the clinical mental health students it's basically a big case study where you are taking one of your clients that you've worked with at your internship site and writing up a full case conceptualization and treatment plan and reflection on the work that you've done together that you then present as your final thesis. But it's a case study, it's not a thesis. Good question. Hold on.
Can I add? I want to add something on to what Dr. J said about just the self-reflection piece. So I don't care what counseling program you have, because counseling itself is a self-reflective process. So just be prepared. So many students, they come into the program and they come out, I want to say changed, but I don't want you guys to think there's anything wrong with you all, but just having this new understanding of who you are. And so that, like Dr. J said, is really, throughout every single course. And also multiculturalism, just want to hone in on that. Like, that's a big part of everything we do. Understanding systemic racism, understanding discrimination, homophobia, all of those things, all of those isms. That's such a big part of what we do in every single class. And I think sometimes, you have a diversity class, but that's not the only time that you'll hit on it, right? There's discrimination in assessment, testing and assessments and things like that. So just being able to understand kind of what's going on in our societal makeup, and implement it into the class, and having those discussions and being able to just kind of process that and talk about that.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Robinson, for bringing that piece in, that we're all of the faculty in the program are really committed to anti-racism work and to decolonizing our classes. So that has been a part of our continued learning as faculty, and what we're working very hard to integrate throughout the program for our students. Yeah, you'll see it in all the classes. And I love the assessment as a good example of one of the places that it shows up. I also wanted to say, with the course load, that we typically advise students to count on an average of 6 to 9 hours of outside of class work for every 3 hours that you're spending in class per week. So if you're meeting for the theories class for 3 hours on Monday nights with me, then know that you're also going to need 6 to 9 hours to do the readings, to start on papers, to do the projects. I think that helps students calculate how much time they need to devote to the program, and also why 3 classes very quickly can add up to 40 hours a week of work for the program. I'm going to come back to the candidacy process question because that one's a little bit longer. We aren't a cohort-based model. We have rolling admissions, and so we accept students into, or admit students into the program in January, in May, and in August. And honestly, the size of the cohort, or the size of the group that's brought in, it really varies by semester. Our biggest groups tend to come in August, just because I think that's when people think about going back to school. Our smallest group tends to be in the summer, because that's not typically a time when people are thinking about that. And spring is usually a pretty intimate group. It depends on campus too. And I can speak to Asheville that our fall cohorts, that's not the right word, but our fall incoming groups are usually between 20 and 30. Our summer usually around 10, I would say 10 to 12. Jan is a good hearty group, and our spring is usually closer to like 15 to 20. And we don't really have caps on that. So qualified candidates, that's what we're looking for. Oh, that's a great question, Kyla, about the practicing your faculty as practicing counselors. Many of us, I shouldn't say us, because I don't currently have a private practice, but many of the faculty maintain active small private practices while also serving as full-time faculty. Some of us don't. And are still in touch with professional development, with licensure, with all of that. Additionally, a perk, something I find to be a perk of our program, is our adjuncts. And so we draw from a pretty solid community of adjunct professors who teach quite a bit in our program. And part of what I have come to really love about that is they are all in active practice with clients. So it's that they're full-time practitioners with a little teaching on the side versus your full-time faculty who often come with more teaching experience and pedagogical exposure and thinking, and a little clinical work currently on the side. You get a nice blend with the full-time faculty and the adjuncts. Our faculty, full-time and adjunct, also operate from a wide range of theoretical orientations across all three campuses. I would say that's true. So you get also exposure to a wide range of perspectives in that regard. And we work hard to connect students with faculty and supervisors and mentors that connect with their own professional interests and tracks. Dr. Robinson, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, one thing, we have faculty, like Dr. Jordan said, that, that do have the private practices. And even so, for example, this semester, we have an adjunct that has a private practice. And so I have a student placed with her at her private practice. So the student's not in her class. But we do have that kind of relationship. Is that I have a private practice that I run, and one thing, I just had this conversation with students last week, is that that's what we're here for, right? So even though everyone may not have a private practice, everyone has counseling experience, right? And so we can also have those conversations with you about just the counseling process and what that looks like. And I think sometimes students may not realize that there's so many things that you can do with a master's in counseling other than just a private practice. And I also tell students to make sure that you know what your professors' like research interests are, because those can be excellent opportunities to, like I said, not only to learn about starting a private practice in the field, but also research. If folks are interested in writing articles, presenting at conferences, we have a conference this weekend and a student is presenting with me. Dr. J and Dr. K, you guys were in Denver for ACES, was that in
Atlanta? It was Atlanta this year.
Yeah, they were there. I'm not sure if students went there as well, but there's so many things that all of us as faculty do, even outside of teaching, that students, can possibly be a part of. So just engaging with your faculty members and having those conversations about, our populations that we work with, research interests, articles, conferences, things like that, because you all can be a part of that. And that just looks really good on your resume when you graduate.
Yeah. I think especially for students interested in PhD work after the master's program, our program also prepares students who are interested in a PhD in counseling and counselor education. And I wouldn't say many of our students go that route, but knowing that that's a possibility, and when we know that that's of interest to a student, I'll say there's more mentoring available around research and exposure to things and experiences that will add to your CVs and applying for PhD programs. So, man, there's some good questions. Let's see. The clinical mental health and school counseling tracks are very similar. There's basically a handful of courses that are different, like an intro to clinical mental health counseling class for that track and the intro to school counseling track for that class. I really think it's 4 or 5 classes that are different. Otherwise, y'all are in classes together, which is really beneficial to know for our clinical students to understand a little bit more what school counselors do and vice versa, so that referrals after you graduate, it just expands your network and your understanding of what the different roles that counselors can fill. Overlap also, we do offer an add-on program that I think is pretty unique to our program, where while you're in the program, let's say you are on the clinical mental health counseling track, but you'd like to take school counseling classes as well, that you can do that by a net add of 6 credit hours by using your required electives to take some of those school counseling classes. And then also there's one additional school counseling class beyond the electives that you have to take, and then an additional semester of internship in a school counseling site. And it can go the other way with school counseling as your primary track and the clinical add-on courses. So it does tack on probably 2 semesters to your overall plan generally, but that's an option that students who are interested in both roles can take. It's not dual degree. You still only have 1 degree, but you're eligible for licensure in both areas if you do that. There was another question about school counseling. Yes, after, I forget the number of credits that you have to have, but it's pretty, I think it's 8, is it 18 credits, Nichole?
I think it's recently, it used to be, but I think it's recently changed to like 24, I think 26, something like that.
Cool.
But not many more than 18, but
yeah. And so I would say it's more than it's probably after the first year or year and a half of coursework, you're eligible to work as a school counselor. Yes. If you're in if you're in the dual track or a school counseling track, it depends on how quickly you're going, right? So like you can do a dual track, you can do the add-on and still just take 2 classes at a time. And then I do think that it's feasible to work full-time while taking 2 classes on the side. It's full, it's busy, but it's doable. So yes, and those hours for licensure, you can't start accruing hours for clinical mental health licensure until after you've graduated, passed the licensure exam, and been granted licensure as an LCMHCA in North Carolina or LPCA in South Carolina. So no, they would not count towards licensure hours. What that situation does that's sometimes really beneficial for students is gives you a built-in practicum and internship site for your school counseling site where you're already working at the site, which then is one of the few ways where students can maneuver a paid internship, is if they're already working at the site where they'd like to do internship. If that brought up a lot more questions, I just know I just opened a can of worms with that information, but feel free to ask individually if you have questions about that part. Changing campuses, you do not need to reapply once you're accepted into the counseling program. We're one program. What would change is your advisor, because our academic advisors are campus-based. So that would be a fairly smooth transition, I would say, Dr. Robinson. Probably that doesn't happen very often because folks are pretty geographically based. And I will say, especially with COVID and more Zoom-based classes lately, our students and our faculty, we're getting the opportunity, like Dr. Robinson said, to interact across campus a lot more than we used to, which is kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, I've had a few, maybe once, maybe two students that came from North Carolina to South Carolina. And I think Dr. Gray said that there were students that did the same from South Carolina to North Carolina. Now, what I will say also something I've seen, I've had students in internship who lived in South Carolina and had an internship in North Carolina. Like there was an agency that they had connected to, they knew someone there and it worked out. And so they drove to North Carolina. Now that is a nice little drive, but that was something that they were able to do because it was something they wanted to do. So yeah.
Yeah. Internship, speaking of internship, there's a question here about finding internships. School counseling track students are placed at sites. They make requests and then they're placed. Clinical track is a little bit more complicated. You're not placed. We have lists on all 3 campuses of approved practicum and internship sites. And so you receive a lot of support and guidance in the process of applying for practicum and internship sites. And each site has its own application process. Some are very formal, where it really feels just like applying for a job. Others are significantly less formal, where it's sort of a verbal chat and your site supervisor might say, oh yeah, this seems great, let's do it. And that's that. And we work with students, excuse me, through the process of applying for those practicum and internships and getting connected. We're always growing our list of approved sites, and I'm really pleased with the number we've got going in Asheville. At least I know it's always growing in Columbia. Dr. Robinson is out there working it and hustling and connecting. And so we all are committed to connecting to our local communities, which has been a really neat thing to get to witness grow in Asheville over the last almost 10 years, which is wild to say out loud. Most of our students in Asheville, at least, are not straight out of undergrad. So this question about counseling as a second career, I would say most of our students have life experience and professional experience doing something else, either alongside something in mental health or with nothing in mental health, but a passion and an interest now. Second career, third career, fourth, fifth career. I mean, it's one of my favorite things about our students is the wide range of life and professional experiences that they bring into the classroom. It really adds depth to the direction that our discussions go, and it's just cool. It's also great when we do get folks straight out of undergrad, just because they're so fresh and ready to go, generally speaking, and just the dynamic that happens with people at different stages of life. And it's just one of my favorite things about our students, for sure. And I see Dr. Robinson nodding along with that.
Yeah, that's a big one. And I always say everyone's lived experience can add to the classroom environment and discussion and all of that, right? So if you can come from a business background, I had several students that were attorneys for, one was an attorney for like 20 years and she just wanted to do something different, so yeah, everyone's valuable, everyone's input is valuable, and we have a very respectful environment in which we can discuss that and bring in those experiences that you've had. Yeah, I like that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've had CPAs, artists, actors, writers, lawyers. That's actually kind of a big one. We have a lot of lawyers. That's cool. Jan's nodding. Yeah. Jan answered that question. Candidacy. I can talk about that now. So candidacy is something very unique to Lenoir-Rhyne. I've never heard of another program that does it the way that we do. And to be transparent, when I started here, I was like, this is weird and I don't know if I like it. And now I love it. I find it to be a really useful piece of our process, both for faculty and for students. So our candidacy process, what it means is that when you're admitted to our program, every student across all 3 campuses, when they're admitted to the counseling program, is admitted provisionally. So you're accepted to the grad school with a provisional admittance to the counseling program. Once you've completed our 3 candidacy courses, which happen early in the program, counseling theories, basic techniques, and ethics. Once those 3 classes are complete, you're eligible to apply for candidacy. And that is a pretty straightforward application process that you are guided through as part of the techniques class, which is the final candidacy course. And what it offers is a trial period for y'all to make sure that this is what you want, to make sure that you're signing up for what you thought you were signing up for, and that we are really intentional about giving you the courses early in the program that will help clarify that for you, so that hopefully, and it seems to be working, before you get halfway through the program, you're really, or even 3 semesters in, you're really clear that this is what you want. Or you've decided, nope, this actually isn't what I thought I was going to be doing. I'm going to go the human services route, or social work seems like a better fit for me. Or now isn't the right time for me to be in grad school, that you're able to figure that out early enough. It also gives us an opportunity to assess and evaluate fit, so that we can offer feedback for y'all with intentionality as early in the program as possible. If there are concerns about different, in counseling, we talk about professional dispositions, some of the components that we evaluate outside of academic performance that are just part of being a counselor, being able to hold space with empathy, being open to diverse perspectives, being aware of your own biases. Those types of things are areas where our students receive feedback and evaluation as well. At the candidacy point, once you apply for candidacy, all students receive feedback, individualized feedback at that point, and are either admitted, which most students are. There's not like a certain number that we are allowed. Our hope is that everyone's admitted. If they want to be admitted and have done well, then they're admitted. But either admitted, sometimes we defer candidacy in unique situations, or denied at that point. And our denial rate is really low, but it is a possibility. And it wouldn't be a surprise to the student that we, again, because we offer intentional feedback, more so in those 3 candidacy classes, if there were any concerns, you would have known about them before the candidacy process.
And can I note, Dr. J, I'm not sure, I know we talked about this a little while ago, but folks have been asking about like the cohort model. We're not a cohort model, like we said, but you can go at your own pace. So I just want to reiterate that. I mean, I've had students, I'm sure all of us have had students who took some time off because they've had babies. They've took some time off because, they've gotten married. So I just want to really, reiterate that, some folks are, they have families and they like to take summers off because they like to vacation with now, we can have conversations about what that does to your schedule and how that might possibly impact your graduation time and all of that. But, you do have that possibility. So I just wanted to share that.
Thanks for mentioning that. That's where our flexibility, I would say, is the greatest, is in the ability to, again, like, I said, most students take 2 classes every semester. And if there's a semester where you want to add a third, that's something we can talk about. If there's a semester where you need a break, or you just want to drop down to 1, that's something that is possible from our end of things. And so that's a way that we offer flexibility that I'm not sure other programs do in that same way. The schedule. So our students register for both summer and fall classes together. And that registration usually opens for current students in early April. And so I can tell you, I don't know the schedule for summer yet. I don't know what I'm teaching for summer yet. And as soon as I do, you will also have access to shortly after I find out. Probably mid-March is when I think that calendar is going to become available, if not mid-March, early April. If you have specific questions about specific class, like when your classes would be, I don't know yet. And as soon as I know, for Asheville, Jan and I talk about that, and she gets in touch with y'all as soon as possible. The same for Nichole with Hickory and Columbia, so that you know your schedules. You will also at that point know your schedules theoretically for fall if you're a summer admit, either way. Graduating in May, it's up to you. I don't know. That's a Jan and Nichole question about what's needed. I would say go ahead and apply and just put in your request for your transcripts to be sent once graduation's official. That's usually what folks do. And if you want a break, you can hold on. You can apply at any point for either summer or fall or next spring. We don't have a great resource for the different class forms. Dr. K made a slide on our orientation slideshow that we do that actually just confuses me even more, because she included all of the information that we've had to add because of COVID. So like we also have fully virtual classes that meet synchronously, but we meet on Zoom just like this. And that just throws a wrench in everything. So I don't have a great resource. And that is something that in your initial academic advising appointment with your advisor, we can go through and tell you the likely format of the classes that you'll be taking throughout the semester. I know off the top of my head how classes are typically offered in Asheville, but I don't have that in a handout. That's a good idea though. Oh my. BTD, what does that mean?
Bridges to Dreams.
Oh no, the candidacy process is the same, I think. So another thing with candidacy, when we talk about the 3 candidacy classes, I think sometimes students are like, well, what if I want, so for example, if you start this summer, none of the candidacy classes are offered in Asheville in the summer, but there are still plenty of classes that you can take alongside those candidacy classes. So you could take theoretically 2 in the summer, you'd take theories and ethics, and maybe even a third in the fall, and then you'd take techniques and 1 or 2 others in the spring, and be eligible for candidacy at the end of the spring. And that would be true for students starting in summer or fall, that candidacy eligibility would be at the end of spring, either way. Oh, Daniel, yes. Yes, masks are still being worn. We have a mask mandate and a vaccine mandate at LR. And you would not be the first student we've had with hearing difficulties and hearing disabilities. And so that's something we've been kind of problem solving on a case-by-case basis. I had one student where I used the mask with the clear plastic, and that was actually worse because it muffled the voice so bad. So anyway, I say that, or I mentioned that to say we're willing to work with you, and we've got disability services in Hickory who help across all 3 campuses with coming up with ways to make it work, even with masks, which has been a challenge. And I know that that's changing. So LR tends to follow CDC guidelines and our county guidelines for the 3 counties in which we operate. And so I imagine that there will be backs and forths with that in the coming semesters, as we do our best to follow the pandemic needs. How well, Kyla, good question. Oh wait, were there any other? No. Okay. How well do we prepare our students to become practicing counselors? I'm biased and I say very well. As evidenced by, our students tend to do very well on the licensure exam. Our pass rate is very high on the licensure exam, and we take that very seriously because that's the first step in licensure. I would also say another piece of evidence, ongoing evidence that we get is from our alumni reporting back. And they consistently report feeling very well prepared. And I mean, again, they probably have a bias having been through the program, but I often hear from students who are at internships, often with other counseling students from other programs, saying that in those interactions, they recognize that they've gotten some things from our program that students in other programs say that they aren't getting. So I feel really good about what we offer. Our alums stay pretty involved with our program, especially, I mean, I can speak to the Asheville campus. We have alums serving as site supervisors. We have an alum teaching as an adjunct for us this semester, which is really cool. Technically, we've had that. This is the third adjunct alum that we've had. So all of that to me speaks to our students feeling very well prepared. In their exit interviews, students report feeling prepared. And they're kind of rocking it out there in the world of mental health, getting jobs and keeping private practices and getting licensed and doing good work, which is always so inspiring to get to see. Flexibility around missing class. Yeah. Yep. So the quick answer is yes. The more specific answer is it depends on the class. I say that because, for example, my theories class meets weekly face-to-face, and because of that, there's a freebie absence. Like you can miss one without a point deduction. You can also, if you're sick, you can Zoom into class because we're all trying to keep everybody safe. And you can Zoom into class and get partial credit for attendance and not miss everything, which is beneficial for your learning and contributions to class discussion. My diversity class, on the other hand, only meets 8 times, and we meet for 5 hours, 8 times throughout the semester. That one is harder to miss. And overall, yes, there's flexibility. We do what we can to work with y'all, especially for a one-time thing. Or for COVID, or for sick kids, or for, all of the many things that happen in life. I joke in Asheville that we're a family-friendly program by default because Dr. K and I both have young kids. And so, sometimes we need some flexibility around having sick kids or whatever. And so, and Dr. Robinson also has littles. And so that's just sort of built into our awareness right now, especially that that's a part of people's lives. So there's faculty on the Hickory campus also have littles, so they're not as little as ours.
I think the one thing that we've been saying since the pandemic started, grace. I think every professor in our program, we've been talking a lot about grace. We put something, like we have a little blurb in all of our syllabi just about learning during a pandemic, especially because I think that this has shown that, you just can't ever be so certain. Like, for example, today, there I have littles that I had to put them in their rooms just to meet with you guys because my son's school closed when he was about 5 minutes from the school and I had to go get him. So now I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old that are trying to run around. So, that's something that we've been talking about, and I think I'm sure you would have needed that anyway. Like life didn't have issues, it wasn't just the pandemic that brought that on, but since the pandemic, we do have conversations about grace and offering it to ourselves, but also holding ourselves accountable, right? Like we can do both at the same time and make sure that we're meeting whatever it is you need to meet as students, but as professors, like we extend grace and we may need grace, and just grace is sprinkled throughout every semester. So
A liberal sprinkling of grace. Yes. We talk a lot too about communication, and that, we can't offer grace if we don't know what's going on, or it's harder to offer specific grace if we don't know what's going on with students. And when students reach out and say, Dr. J, my kid just tested positive, I can't come to class tonight, can I Zoom in? Like, that is easy for me to work with the student. If a student says at the beginning of the semester, I've got this trip planned that has been planned for a really long time, I can't promise that we can make it. I can work with you though to come up with the best solution to keep moving you forward while also giving you your life that is a priority. When you start grad school, it needs to be a priority. And if there are times when family bumps up to number one, or work bumps up to number one, and grad school takes a number two, we get it. Though it needs to be.
And I want to add, I've never heard of any job asking a graduate, how long did it take you to get your master's? And so I say that because I find that sometimes students kind of have in their mind, like, I have to be done by this date, because if I'm not done by this date. And so, that's something to think about, right? Like, ask the questions if you have specific questions about the program and course load, and you guys are asking great questions right now. But even if you get into the program and you're like, you know what, this is a lot, and maybe 3 classes is not doable, or 2 classes are not doable, maybe I need to go down to 1. Sometimes I can see students really struggle with that because they have your very first, plan of study where it says you're supposed to graduate on this date, and you just want to stick to it and you want to get done. And I always tell my students, like, no one is going to ask you how long it took you to get done. And so what we don't want to do is create students or counselors, right, that are already burned out before you get into the field. Because sometimes we kind of hear conversations of, I just need to get through, I'm exhausted, I feel really burned out, and I'm just going to get through. But then what does that do? So then you're going to enter the field being burned out, because this is a field that you need to be rejuvenated, and you have to be refreshed and energized and all of those things, because it doesn't get easier when you graduate, then the work just continues. So just kind of keep that in mind, of not like pushing yourself, being really aware. And that's why you do a lot of those assignments on self-awareness, but just, what's going on in your life. If you need to slow it down, like, don't worry about when you'll get done, like, you'll get done. It just may not be in the time that you wanted to get done, but that's so important to have that flexibility, because as we've seen with the pandemic, you just never know what can happen either way.
We also talk a lot as part of that about self-care in our program, and I think students get sick of hearing about self-care and that it's beyond yoga and bubble baths, although those are both lovely. That self-care is more about things like balancing what's on your plate and taking care of ourselves around boundaries and where our time is invested, and that the program is a really important opportunity to practice that before going into the field, a field that is full of burnout. And we're aware of that and work very hard to help our students develop strategies, connections, and processes and practices that are going to serve them well as humans doing this work, not just as students doing this work down the line.
And self-care is not eating and sleeping. Those are human needs. I'll have conversations like, well, I got to eat lunch today. No, that's not self-care. Like, that's just a basic need.
Survival.
Right. You have to eat and you have to sleep. And, so yeah, being able to appropriately identify like what self-care really is. And then I also wanted to add too that, like, for example, I teach crisis tonight, and I don't know, Dr. J, if Dr. K is the one that teaches crisis in Asheville, but I know I saw her crisis syllabus. She shared it with me, but at any rate, we really try to do a good job of connecting students to folks in the community. And so not only when you get to practicum and internship, so I have 8 classes, like I'm meeting 8 times with students this semester. Each class there's a guest speaker from the Columbia community that has worked in crisis. So you guys will have, plenty of opportunities to meet people that's in the field. And these are great opportunities to say, hey, I think I might be interested in this population, or I might be interested in this agency. So these are, I mean, there's just awesome networking opportunities, you know, in the classes as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had a guest speaker in theories last night do a Gestalt demonstration that was pretty awesome. So, and they come back every semester. So yeah, and that then serves as a site supervisor for some students. So yeah, we try. We're a generalist program, meaning we work hard to expose y'all to the widest range of what counselors, clinical mental health and school counselors can do in this field. So it's not like we all operate from the same theory or with the same client base. You're getting different perspectives, you're getting the opportunity to network beyond the faculty in a lot of different ways, through guest speakers, through professional development events, through our honor society that hosts some pretty cool social events. There's lots of opportunities. I see our time, and I see our questions have kind of slowed down. I don't know if there are others.
I think we definitely had really great questions and covered a lot of what the students would need to know about the program. So anything else we can think of? I don't think.
I will say, especially I'm thinking about the question about course formats. And if you have questions or you want some more information about something that we talked about tonight or today, please feel free to reach out through email. I'll put mine in the chat box. That we are always happy to respond to those questions. I know Jan is always happy to facilitate visits to the Asheville campus. Nichole too for Columbia and Hickory. So yeah, we're here if you have questions beyond today. Oh, thank you, Jan.
Alrighty. Well, thank you both Dr. J and Dr. Robinson for taking time out of your afternoon to be with us. This was super helpful, I think, for a lot of our prospective students or admitted students that might be coming in for either the summer or the fall. So please feel free to reach out to either of these ladies if you have any questions about the program that didn't get answered today. So,
and I just want to thank you all for being here, whether you choose our program or not. Dr. Gray always does the most inspiring, like, this is a great field and we need you. And I don't know, I can't do it justice, but I feel like I want to leave you all with that of like, whether you choose our program or another, as I said at the beginning, this is a growing field with a lot of need, and those who are drawn to it tend to be a special breed. And we're just happy to see you all here and see your interest, and hope that you find a great fit. I hope it's with us. And if it's not, wish you the best of luck anyway. So thanks to each of you for being here.
Thanks, everyone.
thank you. All right. Well, Jan and I will continue. Dr. Robinson and Dr. J, y'all are free to go for your afternoon. All right. So next, Jan and I are going to be covering admission requirements for those of you who have not heard about that information already, and also some financial aid information. We do realize it is 1 o'clock. So if, like we said, if you do have to cut out, no worries, you won't hurt our feelings. We'd love for you to stay. But again, this session's being recorded, so you can always tune into the information later if you would like that link. So for the time being, I will try to go through this pretty quickly, but I do have a presentation that I like to show. I'm a very visual person, and I think it's really helpful to just kind of see it too as I go through the info. So again, if you have questions as I'm going, it does not hurt my feelings if you interrupt and unmute yourself to ask those questions, or definitely chat in the chat box. Let us know if there is anything on your mind, and we're happy to answer that for you. So this changed my view. Jan, can you see my PowerPoint? Good. All righty. So normally we like to do, well, pre-COVID, we would do these sessions in person, and I would give this, elaborate spiel about, the background of Lenoir-Rhyne University and everything that we have to offer and our mission and vision. But I will not go through all of that for the sake of time, but this is just a little bit about Lenoir-Rhyne University in general. And two, I'm happy to share this PowerPoint with everyone after the session. That way you guys have it and can refer back to it. But when we are normally in person, I love the opportunity to talk with each of you about, what has brought you to the decision to apply to graduate school. What is your journey? What's your story? And specifically for y'all, why are you interested in clinical mental health counseling or school counseling? So I do go through, all these different reasons for why students pursue grad school, and these are just a couple of them. But I won't make each of you do that today, again, for the sake of time. But these are just some things to consider. And certainly in order to be a clinical mental health counselor or to be a school counselor, the answer is pretty easy. You have to go to grad school to do that. So that is really, one of the reasons for students like you that you pursue it. But all of these are definitely reasons behind that as well. So this is just a general overview of the graduate school. We highlighted a lot of this that is specific to counseling, or Dr. J and Dr. Robinson highlighted that information. But on average, your class sizes are going to look about 20 students. On average. Now, in the fall, as we had mentioned in the chats, are usually our largest enrollment cycle. So you could have, I know for the Hickory campus, sometimes it could get to 25 students, or maybe even 30 if it's a larger cycle. But on average, you're going to look to have about 20 students in your classes. And then as you progress through the program, you might have less, or you might find that you just have a class size of 10, especially when you get to your practicum and internship semesters, where you're in need of that more individualized attention with those classes. So again, Dr. J had highlighted for our counseling program, most students take about 6 to 9 credit hours a semester. So that looks about 2 to 3 classes. In order to remain eligible for financial aid, just keep in mind, you can definitely take 1 class at a time, but you do have to be enrolled in at least 6 credit hours a semester to remain eligible for your financial aid. So keep that in mind, and we'll go over financial aid here in a bit, but just something to think about as well. These are all of the programs we offer across all 3 campuses, 4 including online, fully online programs, but we won't stay on that too much. These are just some highlights of our Hickory campus. So again, our Hickory campus is our main campus where we have our undergraduate student population. And then the student resources are mainly on our Hickory campus, but are accessible to students in Asheville and Columbia as well. This picture at the top, that blue grayish house is now bright red, recently renovated, and that is where our graduate offices are. So my office is included in here. The Dean of the Graduate School, Dr. Wood, her office is here. So if you are ever on the Hickory campus and want to drop by, this is where you'll go. Also, the right side is the Rhyne building. That is where a lot of the counseling classes are housed on campus for students. And then the beautiful Asheville campus that I always love to admire the view. As Dr. J was saying, Asheville is The Asheville Center is located in downtown Asheville in the Chamber of Commerce building, 2nd and 3rd floors. And the Asheville area, you know, look at it, it's beautiful. So it has a lot to offer in terms of location for our students as well. And then Columbia, and we highlighted this a little bit, Dr. Robinson shared a bit, but we are partnered with the Lutheran Theological Southern Seminary. So the occupational therapy program and clinical mental health counseling program are on this campus as well. And it is very close to the University of South Carolina, more of a downtown feel and environment as well. Okay. We had already highlighted, Dr. J highlighted kind of the course schedule or the program schedule that you might be taking as a clinical or school counseling student. But typically if you're meeting synchronously for classes, they're going to be in the evenings. So after 5:00 p.m. to help accommodate for students that are working during the day. You'll have a handful of fully online classes that you'll take that are what we call asynchronous, and then that hybrid format where you can stream into the classes as well. Okay, so for the application, our application is an online application. You can go to this link here. But you can go to the main LR website and go to the graduate school page, and you should see a link there that says apply. The first step is creating your account. And then from there, you will choose a graduate application, either for clinical mental health or school counseling, and then ensure you select the campus location that you're applying to. One thing I'll mention about the application process as well, we do have an option for students to apply strictly for the licensure track. That is for students that are applying that already have their master's in counseling of some sort and are looking to get their licensure credits that they need. So if you are intending to do a full 61 credit hour counseling program, please make sure you do not select that licensure track option. You just want to select clinical mental health counseling or school counseling program. When you go in to apply, we can waive your application fee, especially since you all took the time to be with us today. So you can use the code BEARS. It shouldn't be case sensitive, but that code will waive your $35 application fee, and you can put that in on your application form before you submit it. We have two different tracks that we offer, our traditional and our career admission track. The career admission track is more for students that have been out of undergrad for several years. They've gained at least 4 to 6 years of professional work experience and are maybe coming back to school. Okay, so if you have that career experience to contribute to your application, certainly we would want you to select that career admission track. And I will explain a little bit. There's just a slight difference in the requirement for that, and I'll go into that in just a bit. But say you are fresh out of undergrad and going right into grad school, that traditional admission track will be more for you. When applying, we do need all of your official transcripts from previous institutions. So those can be sent electronically. You can use that email address that's provided there, or by mail to the address that is provided there. Electronic transcripts get to us a lot faster. So if there is an option to send them electronically, we recommend that you do that. Also, we can use unofficial transcripts for admissions purposes until we get your officials in. So that can help to speed up the process of your application as well. So when you are applying, you should see an option to upload unofficial transcripts if you have them. So we would encourage you to do that if you've already got those. But In order for the transcript to be considered official, it has to come directly from your previous institution to Lenoir-Rhyne, and we have it placed on file with your application for you. Okay. Our application deadlines. So our next enrollment term is going to be for the summer. So that deadline is going to be May 1st. Classes will begin at the end of May. I want to say it's the 22nd, 23rd. We recommend you submit and complete your application sooner is always better. But before this May 1st deadline, we will work with students after this date if needed. But to ensure the most seamless enrollment process possible, we encourage you to submit your application before May 1st for the summer. And then for the fall, our deadline will be August 1st. Classes will begin at the end of August. So I think it's like the 22nd or 23rd. I keep mixing up those dates. If you want to see the academic calendar, that is on our main LR website. Under the registrar's office page, if you want to see all of the dates of when classes start and everything like that. And then if you're looking further ahead to spring of 2023, that deadline will be December 1st. Okay. And then our admission requirements. So of course, step one, I call it step one of the process, is submitting your application form. I find that some students get really nervous and hesitant to press that submit button, but I promise, go ahead and do it. It's okay. Because once you have verified that your information is complete, is accurate on your application form, once you press submit, then you will see a checklist. And that is where you upload your other or these additional items that we need for admission. So you'll see where you've have your schools listed. So when we get your official transcripts in from those schools, you'll see those checked off of your checklist. This is where the difference between your career admission track and traditional admission track come into play. So for the traditional admission track students, we ask for an academic letter of recommendation. So that could come from a professor, an advisor, from your current or previous institutions. And then for career admission track students, we ask for more of a professional recommendation letter from a current or former employer, supervisor, both just somebody who you feel like you've worked with for a while and will support you in your application process. Also, on your checklist, this is where you will upload your resume and the essay that we require for admission. So for the essay, you might find on our website that it's a pretty vague prompt that we offer. But I think that's great in the sense that it encourages you to make the essay your own. And we like to hear your story through the essay. That's really the part of the application where we get to learn about you, not only as a person, but as a student and as a professional, and hear your motivations for why you want to pursue the mental health field. So I usually encourage students to talk about any life, career, education experiences that may have led you to the decision to apply. Certainly, you can talk about why you feel like you'd be successful in our program, why you decided to apply to our program here at Lenoir-Rhyne. And then also you can talk about any career goals or career aspirations that you have for yourself, and what you would like to do within the mental health field as a counselor. And then we do get the question, is there a GRE or MAT test requirement? We no longer require the GRE or MAT, yay. So you do not have to submit scores to us. We will accept them if you choose to send them to us. Maybe you're applying to different institutions and you're taking the test anyways. Certainly you can upload an unofficial copy within your checklist if you would like for us to see your scores, but just know that exam is not required of you. for admission. And then an interview upon request. It might be that in your application process, we ask for you to have an interview with some of our faculty, but this is on a case-by-case basis. So we would let you know ahead of time if we needed to have an interview or set that up for you. And then lastly, everybody's favorite part of the discussion, cost and financial aid. So for the 20, which I mistakenly did not change those dates. Always one thing that I forget to change, but it'll be for the 2022-2023 academic year, which our academic year starts in the summer. So starting this summer, the cost per credit hour for the counseling program is going to be $6.90 per credit hour. Our program, students are taking 9 credits a semester, some might be taking 6, some might be taking 3. So your tuition cost is going to be applied by the credit hours you take each semester. In terms of financial aid, one of the things that I have to be honest with students about is I do get the question of, are there any grants or scholarships offered to graduate students at Lenoir-Rhyne? Unfortunately, our grants and scholarships are offered to our undergraduate students here. There really aren't any institutional grants or scholarships that we have for graduate students to apply for. Now, with that being said, there are times where we do hear of scholarship opportunities through faculty or through whoever that sends that information our way. So we do try to be mindful about sending that information out to students when it is available. And then also, being in touch with your faculty if they hear of anything. I think they're pretty good about sending that information out if there is an external scholarship that you could apply for. Most students are familiar with the FAFSA, and so there are graduate options, or there are options for graduate students through the FAFSA. So most students, I would say, apply for what is called the direct unsubsidized loan. So with that loan, students can receive up to $20,500 per academic year to cover the cost of their tuition. So that can be split between your fall, spring, and summer semesters. If you needed additional aid, there is what's called the Graduate Plus loan. And so that loan helps to bridge the gap between your cost of attendance and then additional aid that you're receiving. So that is something to look into, but again, that direct unsubsidized loan, that $20,500 can go a very long way. One thing that we always say is only take out as much as you need each semester, and our financial aid office is really great about working with students to work through that financial aid process with you. When students are admitted to our program, we do offer one-on-one virtual financial aid sessions with a financial aid counselor here if you would like to take advantage of that. So definitely for our students that have been accepted already, we'll be sending those dates to you in the coming weeks if we haven't already, but those will be towards closer to May that those will take place. There are also North Carolina loan options for those of you that are looking at the Asheville and Hickory campuses. So there's the North Carolina Student Assist Loan through CFNC. That loan has no prepayment, origination, or application fees. And there's also what is called the Forgivable Education Loan for Service. So this is a really great opportunity for those of you interested in clinical counseling. It's basically a loan forgiveness program where if you're planning to work in an employment shortage field, there's certain careers that qualify for this. Clinical counseling is one of those. And for X number of years that you work in that profession, a certain percentage of your loans can be forgiven. So definitely something for our clinical students for you to look into as well. And then lastly, other suggestions for paying for your education. So the ones that I'm mainly going to highlight here, I get questions about graduate assistantships pretty often. So these positions are mainly offered through our Hickory campus because this is our largest campus location. These positions are kind of similar to the concept of work study, but basically graduate students can apply for these and you are working for a department here on campus about 20 hours a week in order to receive a certain amount of tuition remission. So most of these positions last year covered about 15 credit hours of tuition remission each academic year. There are some different ones, such as like ones through Residence Life, where you might apply to be a RD and they have some additional benefits with those positions. But these are really great opportunities to help with, of course, your tuition costs, but also with making connections on campus. I will say they're limited and competitive to get, and we are not sure each year how many will become available. Every now and then we'll get some that get posted for the spring, but most become available for the fall and will be posted around May or June. So I encourage students that are interested in those to just look on the employment website or webpage on the LR website. If you go to the main page and scroll all the way down, you'll see a link for employment. And then from there, you'll see a link for graduate assistantships. And that's where these will be posted if you would like to apply for one. Our LR Partners program, this is basically a tuition discount program where we are partnered with local businesses, school systems, agencies in the Hickory, Asheville, and Columbia communities, to where employees of these businesses, school systems, agencies that are partnered with us, their employees can get a tuition discount on their graduate tuition cost if you are partnered. So each partner has a different discount rate. It could be 10, 15, or 20%. But if you are currently working for one of our LR partners, please, we encourage you. We try to check in on that information by reviewing your resume and everything like that. But please just communicate that with us if it's something we missed. But we do try to check in on that. So also, if you are currently working for somewhere that you might think we could partner with or want to partner with, we're always looking to establish new partnerships. So Rick Nichols is our partners coordinator, and then also Susie Chandler in Asheville. So we can get you in touch with somebody is what I'm trying to say. And then lastly, our Alumni Advantage discount, that is a tuition discount specific to our alumni. So for students that graduated from LR, they could either get a 10, 15, or 20% discount depending on the amount of credit hours that they have completed. So, and then I think that's pretty much all the ones I'll highlight for the sake of time today. These are just some additional tips as far as applying for financial aid. I will say if you do not plan to take out financial aid or loans, our business office does offer payment plans for students that are paying out of pocket. So you would just work with Jeanette McKee in our business office to set up that payment plan, and that can be done also through your student portal once you are enrolled. So. And then lastly, these were just some of the counseling program highlights. All of this we had gone over before. Dr. Gray is normally on our sessions. He wasn't here today, but Dr. Jordan and Dr. Robinson were with us. And here is all of our contact information. So if you have additional questions, anything that we didn't cover today, or maybe this evening you're eating dinner and you're like, oh shoot, I should have asked that question and I completely forgot. That happens to me all the time. So please, we encourage you to reach out to myself, to Jan, any of our counseling faculty. With us being a smaller institution, I'd say we're pretty tight with our counseling faculty and work hand in hand. So we are, currently doing on-campus visits. If you want to come by any of our campus locations, we're happy to arrange that for you. Also, Jan and I do individual sessions with students all the time, virtually, in person, phone calls, whatever you need, we're here to accommodate for it. So just please communicate with us. Feel free to reach out if there is anything that you need or feel like we haven't covered today. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, I think. Okay. And that was a lot. That was a lot of info and I went through it very quick. So is there anything, I think Jan, you've been answering some of these questions. But I'll just say, I guess Jan and I will hold on for a bit if y'all do have questions. But if not, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us this afternoon. I know we went a little bit over, but hopefully it was worth your time. And we wanted it to be an opportunity to where you got all the information you need and you feel more confident in your application process or enrollment process moving forward with us here at Lenoir-Rhyne. So, Jan, is there anything that you want to say or free to go?
Yeah, just thanks everybody for joining us and for sticking with us this long. So yeah, if y'all have any questions, just shoot, go ahead and let us know now. Yeah.
All righty. And it was good to see some of y'all that I've already spoken with before too. Thanks for joining us.
For sure.
All righty. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, y'all. All right, and I can stop recording.